A Werewolf Shifter Romance, written by Amelia Hart. Chapter 1. The Inheritance. The keys felt heavier than they should have in Harper Vale's hand. She stood at the edge of the gravel driveway, staring at the cottage her mother had left behind, and wondered why grief still felt so raw after 6 months. The structure looked smaller than she remembered, its dark wooden beams weathered by years of mountain winters and summers alike. Vines crept up the stone foundation, wild and untended, reclaiming what humanity had tried to tame. Harper was 26 now, old enough to know that inheritances came with complications. This one came with memories she would rather have left buried. Her mother had always been distant. Not cruel, never that, but absent in the ways that mattered. Even as a child, Harper had sensed the wall between them, something cold and unyielding that no amount of reaching could breach. She had stopped trying somewhere around her teenage years, focusing instead on school, on work, on building a life in the city where emotions could be managed and controlled. The cancer had taken her mother quickly. 3 months from diagnosis to funeral, Harper had sat by the hospital bed, holding a hand that felt fragile as paper, and still her mother had looked at her with eyes that seemed focused somewhere else, somewhere Harper could never follow. "Take care of the cottage," her mother had whispered near the end, her voice barely audible over the beeping machines. "Promise me," Harper had promised. She kept her promises, even when they led her back to places she had tried to forget. The October air bit at her exposed skin as she walked up the path. Fallen leaves crunched beneath her hiking boots, the sound unnaturally loud in the stillness. The mountains rose around the property, their peaks already dusted with early snow. This far north, winter came fast and stayed long. Her mother had chosen isolation deliberately, settling here after Harper left for college. Another mystery Harper had never understood. The front door resisted when she tried the lock, wood swollen with moisture. She put her shoulder into it, and it gave with a groan that echoed through the empty rooms beyond. Dust motes danced in the afternoon light streaming through unwashed windows. The air inside tasted stale, untouched for months. Harper set her bag down and surveyed the space. The main room combined kitchen and living area, furniture covered in white sheets that reminded her too much of ghosts. A stone fireplace dominated one wall, cold and dark. Doors led off to bedrooms and a bathroom. Everything felt frozen in time, waiting. She spent the first hour opening windows, letting the mountain air chase away the staleness. The cottage had been built well, solid construction that had withstood decades. Her mother had maintained it carefully, though Harper could not remember ever seeing her hire help. By evening, Harper had managed to make the master bedroom habitable. She found clean sheets in a linen closet, the fabric smelling faintly of lavender. The bed was larger than expected, and she wondered briefly if her mother had ever shared it with anyone. There were no photos anywhere in the cottage, no personal touches that might reveal secrets. Just functional furniture and bare walls. Exhaustion crept through her bones as the sun began its descent. She had driven 8 hours to reach this place, and the weight of it pressed down harder with each passing moment. Harper made herself a simple dinner from supplies she had brought, ate standing at the kitchen counter, and tried not to think about how quiet everything was. That was when she heard it. A sound, faint and muffled, coming from somewhere below. Harper froze, fork halfway to her mouth. The cottage did not have a basement, at least not one she had ever known about. But the sound came again, unmistakable now. Something scratching, accompanied by a soft whimper that raised the hair on the back of her neck. She set down her plate and followed the noise. It led her to a door she had assumed opened to a pantry. When she tried the handle, it would not turn. Locked. Harper ran her fingers over the wood, feeling the smooth grain, and found scratches near the base. Deep gouges, as if something had clawed at it from the other side. Her heart began to beat faster. The logical part of her mind insisted there was a reasonable explanation. An animal had gotten trapped, perhaps. A raccoon or a stray cat. But another part of her, older and more instinctual, whispered warnings she could not quite articulate. The keys. Her mother had left her a ring of them. Harper retrieved it from where she had set it on the counter and tried each key until one slid home. The lock turned with a click that sounded too loud. The door opened onto stairs leading down into darkness. The scratching stopped. Silence rushed up to meet her, thick and expectant. Harper grabbed a flashlight from her bag and descended. The basement was larger than the cottage above, carved directly into the rock of the mountain. The air felt colder here, damp in a way that spoke of deep earth and hidden things. Her flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing stone walls and a dirt floor. Boxes lined one wall, stacked and forgotten. And in the far corner, partially hidden behind an old crate, something moved. Harper approached slowly, her footsteps careful. The beam of light caught white fur first. Then the shape resolved itself. A wolf pup, small and trembling, curled into a tight ball. Its eyes reflected the light, twin points of blue that watched her approach with a mix of fear and something else she could not name. "Hey there," Harper whispered, crouching down a few feet away. "What are you doing down here?" The pup did not move, but its eyes tracked her every motion. Harper could see now that it was young, probably only a few months old. Its fur was pure white, unmarked by any other color, and matted with dirt. One of its front legs was held at an odd angle, possibly injured. Wolves were supposed to be extinct in this region, at least to the human world. To shifters, they had merely learned to disappear. She had read that somewhere, back when her mother first moved here. Harper had researched the area out of concern, worry that her mother had chosen somewhere too remote, too dangerous. The articles had reassured her that large predators had been hunted out decades ago. Yet here was evidence to the contrary. The pup whimpered again, and something in Harper's chest tightened. It was hurt and alone. Whatever else it might be, it was also suffering. She had always been drawn to wounded things, a trait her mother had found both admirable and foolish in equal measure. "I am not going to hurt you," Harper said, keeping her voice soft. "Let me help." She moved closer, inch by careful inch. The pup watched but did not retreat. When Harper finally reached it, she could see the extent of the injury. The front leg was not broken, but there were cuts along its side, partially healed, but still angry and red. Whatever had happened to it had happened days ago, maybe longer. Harper pulled off her jacket and wrapped it around the pup, lifting it carefully. It weighed less than she expected, its body tense but not struggling. She carried it back up the stairs, mindful of the injured leg, and set it down on the kitchen floor in a nest of blankets she pulled from the linen closet. The pup accepted water from a bowl she filled, drinking desperately. Harper opened a can of tuna from her supplies, and offered that too. The pup ate with the hunger of prolonged starvation, and Harper found herself wondering how long it had been trapped down there. As she watched it eat, Harper noticed things that did not quite fit. The pup's eyes were too intelligent, too focused. It watched her with an awareness that felt distinctly human, and when it finished eating, it positioned itself between Harper and the door, as if standing guard despite its small size and obvious weakness. "You are a strange one," Harper murmured. The pup tilted its head at her words, and Harper could have sworn it understood. She made a bed for it near the fireplace, layering blankets to create warmth. The pup settled into it with a sigh that sounded almost grateful. Harper sat on the couch, watching it, and tried to make sense of what she had found. Her mother had locked a wolf pup in the basement. The thought circled her mind, refusing to settle. Why would she do that? Had she been trying to protect it, or protect herself from it? And where had it come from in the first place? Questions without answers. Harper was growing used to those. She must have dozed off at some point, exhaustion finally claiming her. When she woke, it was full dark outside, and the cottage was silent. Too silent. Harper sat up, immediately searching for the pup. The nest of blankets lay empty. Harper grabbed her flashlight and searched the cottage, room by room. Nothing. The front door remained locked from the inside, the windows closed. The pup had vanished as if it had never existed. She was standing in the kitchen, trying to convince herself she had not imagined the entire thing, when movement outside caught her attention. Harper moved to the window and peered out into the darkness. At the edge of the tree line, barely visible in the moonlight, stood a wolf. Not a pup, but fully grown, massive in a way that stole her breath. Its fur was black as midnight, and even from this distance, Harper could feel the weight of its stare. It watched the cottage with an intensity that made her skin prickle with awareness. Then it turned and disappeared into the shadows, silent as smoke. Harper stood frozen at the window for a long time after it vanished, her heart pounding against her ribs. Sleep did not come easily that night, and when it did, her dreams were filled with golden eyes and the whisper of something ancient stirring in the dark. Chapter 2. The Transformation. Morning brought no answers, only questions that multiplied with the daylight. Harper woke stiff from a restless night, her dreams haunted by images of wolves and eyes that watched from the shadows. The cottage felt different now, as if discovering the basement had shifted something fundamental about the space itself. The white pup had returned sometime before dawn. Harper found it curled in the same nest of blankets by the fireplace, breathing steadily in what appeared to be genuine sleep. In the pale morning light, she could examine it more closely. The injuries along its side had scabbed over, but the wounds looked too precise to be from a simple accident. They reminded her of claw marks. Harper made coffee and opened her laptop, grateful that her mother had at least maintained decent internet service. A quick search confirmed what she already suspected. Gray wolves had been declared extinct in this region nearly 40 years ago, victims of aggressive hunting campaigns and habitat loss. The last confirmed sighting had been in 1987. Yet here was undeniable proof that at least 2 wolves remained. The pup and the massive black wolf she had seen at the tree line, unless she was losing her mind, which remained a distinct possibility. She spent an hour reading articles about wolf behavior, habitat, and diet. Nothing she found explained the intelligence she had witnessed in the pup's eyes, or the protective way it had positioned itself between her and the door. Wolves were pack animals, yes, but they were also wild. They did not guard humans. The pup stirred as she read, lifting its head to watch her with those unsettling blue eyes. Harper set aside her laptop and approached slowly. "We need to get you checked out properly," she said. "I know a veterinarian in town. Well, I found one online. Same thing." The pup's ears flattened slightly, but it made no move to run. Harper wrapped it carefully in a blanket, mindful of its injuries, and carried it to her truck. The drive into town took nearly an hour on winding mountain roads, and the pup remained quiet the entire time, pressed against her side in the passenger seat. The clinic was a small building on the edge of the main street, painted white with blue trim. A sign above the door read, "Reed Veterinary Services." Harper had called ahead, explaining she had found an injured animal and needed it examined. The woman who answered had sounded surprised but agreed to see her. Dr. Sophie Reed turned out to be a woman in her mid-40s with silver streaks in her dark hair and sharp, assessing eyes. She took one look at the pup in Harper's arms and went completely still. "Where did you find this?" The doctor's voice was carefully neutral, but Harper caught the tension beneath it. "At my mother's cottage, in the basement. It was locked down there." Something flickered across Dr. Reed's face too quickly for Harper to identify. The doctor gestured toward an examination room. "Bring it in here." Harper laid the pup on the metal table, keeping one hand on its back for reassurance. "Doctor." Reed approached with professional calm, but Harper noticed how the woman's fingers trembled slightly as she began the examination. The temperature reading made the doctor frown. 103 degrees. High, but not dangerously so for a canine. She listened to the heart rate next, her frown deepening. Pulse is elevated. Very elevated. Is that bad? It depends. Dr. Reed's hands moved over the pup's body, checking bones and joints. When she reached the injuries on its side, she paused. These are healing remarkably fast. Whatever caused them happened at least a week ago, possibly longer, but they look only a few days old. Harper watched the doctor work, noting how carefully she avoided looking directly at her. "You seem surprised to see it. Wolves have been extinct here for decades. That is what I read." Dr. Reed straightened, removing her gloves. "Where exactly is your mother's cottage?" "About 30 miles north, up in the mountain range. My mother was Eleanor Vale. She died 6 months ago." Recognition flashed in the doctor's eyes, followed immediately by something that looked like fear. "I see. And you are living there now?" "Just settling her affairs." The doctor moved to a cabinet, retrieving supplies that Harper could not identify. Her movements had become jerky, nervous. "Miss Vale?" I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly. Has anything else unusual happened at the cottage? Harper thought of the massive black wolf watching from the tree line. Define unusual. Animals behaving strangely. Sounds you cannot explain. Feeling like you are being watched. All of the above. Dr. Reed turned to face her fully, and Harper saw genuine concern in her expression. You need to be careful. That area has a reputation. People avoid it for good reason. What kind of reputation? Before the doctor could answer, the pup began to tremble. Harper moved closer instinctively, reaching out to steady it. The trembling intensified, and the pup made a sound halfway between a whimper and a growl. What is wrong with it? Harper demanded. Get back, Dr. Reed said sharply, but Harper ignored her. Her hand touched the pup's head, and she felt heat radiating from its body. The trembling became violent shaking, and Harper grabbed a towel to wrap around it. As she lifted the pup, it twisted in her grip. She felt something shift beneath the blanket, something that should not have been possible. The pup's body began to change. Bones cracked and reformed with sounds that made Harper's stomach turn. White fur receded, revealing pale skin. The shape elongated, limbs stretching and reconfiguring. Harper stumbled backward, and the bundle in her arms became suddenly heavier. When the transformation finished, she was no longer holding a wolf pup. She was holding a child, a boy, no more than 6 years old, with tangled blonde hair and terrified blue eyes. He was naked except for the towel, shaking violently, and staring at Harper with an expression of pure panic. Please, he whispered, his voice hoarse. Please do not let them find me. Harper's mind refused to process what she had just witnessed. The logical part of her brain insisted this was impossible, that she was hallucinating, that there had to be a rational explanation. Hours later, the image still replayed behind her eyelids, fur peeling into skin, the sound of bones realigning. No amount of logic could file it neatly away. But the child in her arms was solid and real, and she could still feel the echo of that transformation against her skin. Dr. Reed moved with sudden efficiency, grabbing clothes from a drawer and helping Harper dress the boy. Her face had gone pale, but her hands were steady. His name is Tom, the doctor said quietly. He went missing 2 weeks ago. Tom grabbed Harper's shirt, his small fists twisting the fabric. Uncle is looking, but bad men came first. They hurt me. Who are these bad men? Harper's voice sounded distant to her own ears. I do not know their names. They smell wrong, like anger and death. Tom's eyes filled with tears. I ran and ran, but they chased me. Then the door closed and I was stuck in the dark. Harper looked at Dr. Reed over the child's head. The doctor met her gaze and nodded once, a gesture that seemed to carry volumes of unspoken meaning. Take him back to the cottage, Dr. Reed said. Keep him hidden, and whatever you do, do not trust anyone who comes looking. What is he? Harper had to force the words out. A shifter. A werewolf, if you prefer the old term. Doctor. Reed moved to the window, peering out at the street. His uncle is looking for him, the Alpha King himself, which means you are now at the center of something much larger and more dangerous than you can imagine. Harper wanted to argue, to demand better explanations, but Tom was shaking so hard his teeth chattered. Whatever else was true, this child was terrified and hurt. The rest could wait. She carried Tom to her truck, Dr. Reed walking beside them to provide cover. As Harper secured him in the passenger seat, the doctor leaned close. Your mother knew, she whispered. She knew what lives in these mountains. She protected that cottage for a reason. Before Harper could respond, Dr. Reed stepped back and closed the truck door. Harper started the engine and drove. Tom huddled against her side, small and frightened and impossibly real. The drive back passed in a blur. Tom did not speak, and Harper could not find words that made sense of anything. When they reached the cottage, she carried him inside and settled him on the couch with more blankets. Only then did she allow herself to examine what had happened. A child who could transform into a wolf. A species that should not exist. Her mother's cottage that had somehow become a refuge for the impossible. Harper looked at Tom, who watched her with ancient eyes in a young face, and made a decision. Whatever was coming, whatever dangers Dr. Reed had hinted at, this child needed protection. And Harper Vale kept her promises, even the ones she made to herself. "You are safe here," she told him. "I will not let anyone hurt you." Tom's eyes filled with tears again, but this time he smiled. It was a small, fragile thing, but it was trust. Harper felt the weight of that trust settle around her shoulders. Outside, the sun began its descent toward the mountains. Inside the cottage, Harper sat with a child who was not quite human and waited for the world to make sense again. She had a feeling she would be waiting a very long time. Chapter 3. The Alpha King dawn had barely broken when the knock came. 3 sharp raps against the door, authoritative and impossible to ignore. Harper jerked awake from where she had dozed on the couch, her body stiff from keeping watch over Tom through the night. The boy slept curled in a tight ball nearby, his breathing finally steady and calm. The knock came again, harder this time. Harper rose carefully, trying not to wake Tom, and moved to the window. A man stood on her porch, tall and imposing even in stillness. Dark hair caught the early light, and when he turned his head slightly, she saw the sharp lines of his profile. He was probably in his early 30s, wearing jeans and a dark jacket that did nothing to hide the powerful build beneath. Something about him made her pulse quicken. Not fear, exactly, but recognition on a level she could not explain. Harper opened the door but kept the chain lock engaged. "Can I help you?" The man's eyes locked onto hers, and the world seemed to tilt. Amber. His eyes were the color of aged whiskey, intense and burning with barely contained emotion. And his scent hit her immediately, that same rich, woody smell she had noticed outside, the one that had clung to the black wolf. The realization struck her like a physical blow. The black wolf. That was you. Something flickered in his expression. Relief, perhaps, or surprise. "Yes, I have been watching the cottage for days, trying to track his scent. When I saw you arrive, I thought you might be another threat. Who are you?" "Nathaniel Hunt." His voice was low, controlled, but she heard the desperation beneath it. "And I have been searching for 2 weeks for a child who means everything to me. You have him. I can smell Tom here. Please, let me in. Why should I trust you? Because I am his uncle, his guardian, and the Alpha King of these territories." Nathaniel took a step closer, and Harper fought the urge to step back. "Because if you have kept him safe this long, you already know what he is, and you know he needs protection I can provide." Harper studied his face, weighing her options. The desperation in his eyes was real, and that scent, undeniable now, matched the wolf she had seen watching from the trees. Finally, she released the chain and opened the door fully. Nathaniel stepped inside, and the cottage suddenly felt much smaller. He was even taller up close, probably 6'3", and his presence filled the space in a way that made her hyper-aware of every breath, every movement. Then his gaze found Tom, still sleeping on the couch, and everything else fell away. Nathaniel crossed the room in 3 long strides and dropped to his knees beside the boy. His hands hovered over Tom's small form, trembling slightly, before he gently touched the child's shoulder. "Tom," he whispered. "God, Tom." The boy's eyes opened slowly. For a moment, he stared up at Nathaniel in confusion. Then recognition dawned, and he launched himself into the man's arms, with a cry that broke Harper's heart. "Uncle Nate! Uncle Nate! I thought they got you too." Nathaniel wrapped Tom in an embrace that spoke of weeks of terror and grief. His eyes closed, and Harper saw a tear escape down his cheek before he buried his face in Tom's hair. The raw vulnerability in that moment made her chest ache. This was not just an Alpha King. This was a man who had thought he lost the last of his family. Harper turned away, giving them privacy for their reunion. She moved to the kitchen and started coffee, her hands needing something to do. The sound of Tom's sobbing and Nathaniel's quiet reassurances filled the cottage, and she found herself blinking back her own tears. Several minutes passed before Nathaniel joined her, Tom clinging to his side like a burr. The boy had not let go of his uncle's hand since waking. "Thank you," Nathaniel said. His voice was hoarse with emotion. "For protecting him. for keeping him safe when I could not find him. I did not know what else to do. Harper poured coffee and offered him a mug. He was hurt and terrified. I could not just leave him. Nathaniel accepted the coffee, but his attention remained on Tom, checking him over with eyes that missed nothing. The wounds are healing well. You treated them? As best I could. I am not exactly trained for caring for shifter children. You are human. It was not a question. Apparently that is up for debate, Harper said, more sharply than she intended. My mother was apparently a shifter. She never told me. So I have no idea what I am. Interest sparked in Nathaniel's eyes. Eleanor Vale was your mother. You knew her? Not personally. But her name is known. She left the shifter world decades ago. We thought her line had ended. His gaze traveled over Harper with new intensity, assessing. If she was your mother, you may carry dormant genes. Before Harper could respond, Tom tugged on Nathaniel's hand. She saved me, Uncle Nate. When I was scared and the bad men were close, I hid in the basement. Then she found me and fed me and kept me warm. Nathaniel's expression softened as he looked at Harper. Then I owe you a debt I can never repay. The weight of his gratitude made her uncomfortable. Harper turned away, busying herself with breakfast preparations. You said Tom is orphaned. What happened? The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Nathaniel's hand tightened on Tom's shoulder. Rogue attack. 3 weeks ago. Tom's parents, my brother Julian and his mate, were killed. Tom witnessed it. He has been unable to control his shifts since then. The trauma triggers them randomly. Who would attack an alpha family? That is what I am trying to discover. Nathaniel's voice held barely contained rage. Rogues do not typically hunt alpha families. Someone sent them. Someone with resources and motivation. Harper made eggs and toast while Tom told Nathaniel everything that had happened. The boy's story came in fragments, interrupted by moments when his voice would break or he would cling tighter to his uncle. Nathaniel listened with infinite patience, his earlier desperation replaced by careful control. After breakfast, Tom asked to see the basement where he had hidden. Nathaniel went with him, and Harper took the opportunity to explore the attic she had noticed the day before. She found it in a trunk beneath a moth-eaten blanket, a leather-bound journal, the pages yellowed with age. Her mother's handwriting filled the first page. Harper sat on the dusty floor and began to read. The journal detailed a life Harper had never known existed. Her mother had been born into a shifter pack, raised with expectations of finding a mate and producing strong offspring. She had found that mate at 19, a young alpha who promised her everything. Then he rejected her. The entry describing that moment made Harper's chest ache. Her mother's pain bled through every word. The rejection had been public, humiliating, delivered without explanation or mercy. Worse, Eleanor had been pregnant. The rejection caused her to miscarry, losing the shifter child she had carried. After that, her mother had suppressed her shifter nature through sheer will and isolation, building wards around herself that slowly killed her connection to her wolf. She had fled to the mountains and lived alone, protecting the cottage that became her sanctuary. Harper closed the journal, her hands shaking. Her mother's distance finally made sense. The walls between them had not been about Harper. They had been about protecting her from a world of pain and rejection. She descended from the attic to find Nathaniel standing in the hallway, as if he had been waiting for her. Tom was back on the couch, playing with a toy truck. You found something, Nathaniel said, his eyes on the journal in her hands. My mother's history. Harper's voice was thick. She was rejected by her mate. She lost a baby. She spent the rest of her life hiding from your world. Nathaniel's expression darkened. Rejection is a wound that never fully heals. For your mother to survive it and build a life afterward speaks to incredible strength. She was alone. Always alone. Perhaps. But she left you this place. These protections. Nathaniel gestured to the cottage around them. She may not have been able to give you the truth, but she gave you a refuge. That counts for something. Harper wanted to argue, but the emotional weight of the past 2 days crashed over her. She swayed slightly, and Nathaniel was there immediately, his hand on her elbow steadying her. The touch sent electricity through her arm. Harper gasped, and Nathaniel's eyes widened. He felt it too, she realized. This impossible connection. You are exhausted, he said quietly. You should rest. I am fine. You are not. His thumb brushed the inside of her elbow, and Harper suppressed a shiver. You have been caring for a traumatized child while processing impossible revelations. Harper pulled away, needing distance from whatever this was. There is a cut on your shoulder. I saw it when you leaned over Tom. Let me clean it at least. Nathaniel hesitated, then nodded. He removed his jacket and shirt, revealing a muscled torso marked with old scars. The fresh wound on his shoulder was a gash, already partially healed but still angry and red. Harper retrieved her first aid kit and set to work. Her fingers trembled as she cleaned the wound, hyper-aware of the warmth of his skin, the way his muscles tensed under her touch. Nathaniel watched her face, his amber eyes tracking every expression. How did you get this? She asked, needing to break the tension. Tracking Tom. I ran into a rogue pack that did not appreciate me on their territory. You fought them alone. I am an alpha king. I fight alone often. Harper applied antiseptic, and Nathaniel hissed slightly. Sorry. Do not be. Pain reminds us we are alive. She met his eyes and found herself caught. The air between them thickened, charged with something she could not name. Nathaniel leaned forward slightly, his gaze dropping to her mouth. Harper's breath caught. Uncle Nate! Tom's voice shattered the moment. Can we have more juice? Nathaniel pulled back, his jaw tight. Harper turned away quickly, her heart pounding. Whatever had almost happened, she was grateful for the interruption. But as she poured juice for Tom and felt Nathaniel's eyes following her movements, Harper knew her life had just become infinitely more complicated. 3 days later, the rhythm of life in the cottage had settled into something almost normal. Chapter 4. Bonds. Awakening. Nathaniel stayed. Harper had not asked him to, but when evening came and he made no move to leave, she found she did not want him to go. Tom needed his uncle, and the cottage felt safer with the Alpha King's presence filling the space. They fell into an unexpected rhythm over the following days. Nathaniel worked with Tom each morning, teaching the boy to recognize the signs of an impending shift and how to control the transformation. Harper watched from the kitchen window as man and child practiced in the clearing behind the cottage, Nathaniel's patience infinite as Tom struggled with abilities his trauma had fractured. Focus on your breathing, Nathaniel instructed, his voice carrying through the open window. Feel the wolf inside you, but do not let it control you. You control it. Tom stood with his eyes closed, small fists clenched at his sides. His body trembled with effort, and Harper found herself holding her breath. Then slowly, carefully, the boy's hand shifted. Claws extended, then retracted. Fur rippled across his forearms before disappearing. Good, Nathaniel said, pride evident in his tone. Very good, Tom. You are getting stronger every day. The boy beamed up at his uncle, and Harper felt something warm settle in her chest. This was healing, she realized. For both of them. Afternoons brought domestic routines Harper had never expected to enjoy. She cooked meals while Nathaniel chopped wood for the fireplace, or made repairs to the cottage that her mother had left undone. Tom helped where he could, his small hands passing tools or stirring pots, gradually relaxing into the safety they provided. It was during one of these quiet afternoons that Tom first approached Harper on his own. She was reading on the couch when he climbed up beside her, pressing against her side without a word. Harper set down her book and wrapped an arm around him, and Tom sighed as if a weight had lifted. You smell nice, Tom said quietly, like rain and flowers. Thank you. You smell like pine trees and adventure, Tom giggled, a sound Harper had not heard from him before. Uncle Nate says you are special, that you have a good heart. Does he now? He watches you when he thinks no one is looking. Tom tilted his head up to peer at her with those two old eyes. He smiles different when you are near. Softer. Harper's cheeks warmed. Your uncle is a complicated man. He is lonely, Tom said simply. Like you. Like me. But maybe we do not have to be lonely anymore. The words struck something deep in Harper's chest. She pulled Tom closer, and they sat together in comfortable silence as the afternoon light faded. That evening, after Tom had gone to bed, Nathaniel joined Harper on the porch. The night air was cool, carrying the scent of pine and approaching winter. He stood close enough that she could feel his warmth, though they did not touch. "Tom is getting better," Harper said. "I can see the difference. He is resilient. Children often are." Nathaniel's jaw tightened. "But the trauma runs deep. It will take time. He told me about that night, about what he saw." Nathaniel turned to face her fully. "What did he say?" "That he remembers a smell. A blonde woman. Her scent was all wrong," he said. "Like perfume trying to cover something rotten." Harper met his gaze. "Does that mean something to you?" "Perhaps." Nathaniel's expression darkened. "There is a woman, an alpha named Beatrice. She has been pressuring the council for a political alliance between our packs. I refused her years ago. If she was involved in Julian's death, if she thought eliminating my brother would force my hand." "Would it?" "No, but she may not understand that." He paused, seeming to wrestle with something. Julian possessed a rare bloodline from the Cross family, an ability to create protective shields of energy. It is incredibly rare, manifesting perhaps once every few generations. If Tom inherited that ability, he would be extremely valuable and extremely vulnerable. Does Tom have it? He is too young to manifest such powers. Most shifters do not show specialized abilities until at least 10 years old, sometimes older. Nathaniel's hands gripped the porch railing. But if Beatrice believed she could control Tom through me, she could essentially control access to that power when it emerges. Harper processed this new information. So, Tom is in danger, not just because of what he witnessed, but because of what he might become. Yes, and the council is pushing you toward this woman anyway. They do not know about her potential involvement. They see only political advantage. Nathaniel's voice held frustration. "A union with Beatrice would strengthen our territories, bring stability. On paper, it makes sense." Something cold and sharp twisted in Harper's gut. Jealousy, she realized with surprise. She had no right to feel possessive of this man she barely knew. Yet the thought of him with someone else made her want to bare teeth she did not have. "What do you want?" The question came out rougher than intended. Nathaniel's eyes found hers, and the intensity in them stole her breath. "That is becoming dangerously clear." Before Harper could respond, a scream shattered the night. They both ran inside to find Tom thrashing in his sleep, caught in the grip of a nightmare. His body convulsed, and Harper watched in horror as the shift took him involuntarily. Bones cracked and reformed. The boy's cries became inhuman howls as his wolf fought for control. Furniture splintered under flailing limbs. Tom's wolf was larger than it should have been, swollen with panic and pain. His claws gouged the wooden floor, and foam flecked his muzzle. "Tom!" Nathaniel moved to restrain him, but the boy was beyond reason. Harper acted on instinct. She dropped to her knees beside the thrashing wolf and placed her hands on his head. "Tom, listen to my voice. You are safe. You are here with us. Nothing can hurt you." The wolf snapped at her, teeth grazing her arm. Harper did not pull away. She kept her voice low and steady, pouring every ounce of calm she could muster into her words. Heat built in her palms where they touched fur, spreading up her arms and through her chest. "That is it," she murmured. "Feel the fear, but let it go. You do not have to hold on to it anymore." Gradually, impossibly, the wolf began to still. His breathing slowed. The wild panic in his eyes faded, replaced by confusion and exhaustion. Under Harper's hands, she felt his body temperature drop from scalding to merely warm. The tension bled out of his muscles. Tom shifted back to human form and immediately curled into Harper's lap, sobbing. She held him, rocking gently, and found her own face wet with tears. When she looked up, Nathaniel was staring at her with an expression she could not decipher. Awe, perhaps, or fear. "What did you do?" he asked quietly. "I do not know. I just wanted him to feel safe." Nathaniel knelt beside them, his hand hovering over Tom's sleeping form. He should still be panicking. Trauma-induced shifts do not end that quickly. It takes hours for a shifter to calm down after an episode that severe. His eyes found hers. "You healed him somehow. Soothed his wolf on a level I have never seen. That is impossible. So is a human calming a feral shifter with touch alone." Nathaniel reached out slowly and brushed his fingers against Harper's arm, where Tom had bitten her. The skin was unbroken. You should be bleeding." His teeth broke through. "I saw it." Harper looked down at her arm. He was right. There was blood on her sleeve, but the skin beneath was unmarked. "Perfect. What am I?" she whispered. "Something rare." Nathaniel's voice was rough. "Something precious." They carried Tom back to his bed and tucked him in. The boy did not wake, his sleep finally peaceful. Nathaniel checked the destroyed furniture with a resigned sigh, then returned to where Harper stood in the kitchen, trembling with aftershocks. "Sit," he commanded gently, guiding her to a chair. "You need to process what just happened. I do not understand any of this. Your mother's bloodline runs deeper than you know." Nathaniel poured her water and crouched in front of her chair so they were eye level. "Healing abilities are rare among shifters. Most can only accelerate their own recovery. What you just did, calming a feral wolf and healing simultaneously, that is extraordinary. My mother never mentioned anything like this. She probably never manifested it. Suppressing her wolf would have suppressed all her abilities." His hands covered hers where they rested on her knees. "Harper, you need to understand something. If word of this gets out, if others learn what you can do, you will become a target. Healers are valuable beyond measure." The weight of his words settled over her. "What should I do?" "Stay here. Let me protect you both." Nathaniel's grip tightened. "The council wants me to choose Beatrice for political reasons. But if I do that, I cannot keep you safe. A political mate would demand I distance myself from anything that threatens the alliance. Then choose her." The words tasted like ash. "If it is what is best for your people, what if what is best for my people is not what my wolf wants?" Nathaniel's eyes blazed amber. "What if everything in me is screaming to stay here, to guard this cottage and everyone in it, to claim what is mine?" Harper's breath caught. "Nathaniel, I feel the bond forming," he continued, voice raw. "Every moment I spend here, it grows stronger. When I try to leave, even to hunt, my wolf fights me. It wants to stay near you, protect you, and I am losing the battle to maintain control. We barely know each other. I know you protected my nephew when you had no reason to trust him. I know you calmed his nightmares when I could not. I know that being near you feels like coming home after a lifetime of wandering." He stood abruptly, putting distance between them. "And I know that is terrifying for both of us." Harper rose on shaky legs. "My mother's mate rejected her. It destroyed her. I am not him. How can I know that?" Nathaniel turned back, and the pain in his eyes matched her own. "You cannot, and I cannot promise this ends well. But I can promise that what I feel is real. The wolf bond does not lie." They stood in the dim kitchen, the space between them charged with everything they could not say. Harper wanted to close that distance, to test the truth of his words with touch, but fear held her in place, fear of repeating her mother's mistakes. "I need time," she finally said. Nathaniel nodded slowly. "Time is something we may not have much of, but I will give you what I can." He left her standing alone in the kitchen, retreating to the guest room he had claimed. Harper remained frozen, her heart pounding, wondering if she was making the wisest decision of her life or the biggest mistake. Outside, the wind picked up, carrying with it the scent of distant snow. Winter was coming, and with it, Harper sensed, would come choices that could not be avoided. Chapter 5. The Awakening. The changes started small. Harper woke one morning to find she had crushed a coffee mug in her grip without realizing it. This time the strength didn't just comfort her, it frightened her. What had once been healing now felt like command. The ceramic shattered in her hand, pieces falling to the floor, but her skin remained uncut. She stared at her palm, at the strength that should not have been there, and felt the first stirrings of real fear. Nathaniel noticed. He noticed everything. "Your reflexes are faster," he said that afternoon, watching her catch a falling knife by the handle before it hit the ground. Most humans would not have reacted in time. Lucky, I guess. Luck has nothing to do with it. He stepped closer. "Let me check something." His hand pressed against her forehead, and she felt the coolness of his palm. Nathaniel's eyes widened slightly. "Your temperature is elevated, around 101 degrees. Maybe I am getting sick." "Harper," his voice was gentle but firm, "you need to stop denying what is happening. Your mother was a shifter. She suppressed her nature. But the genes do not disappear. They lie dormant for generations, then manifest under the right circumstances. What circumstances? Stress, danger, being surrounded by shifters. All of it is waking something inside you. Nathaniel met her eyes. You are changing. Your body is preparing for a transformation it has been suppressing your entire life. The question is not if you will shift, but when. Harper shook her head, backing away. No, I am not like my mother. I am not going to become some broken thing that has to hide from the world. Your mother was not broken. She was traumatized. There is a difference. And you are not her. You have a choice. I need air. Harper managed, and fled to the porch before Nathaniel could respond. She stood in the cold October wind, trying to calm her racing heart. Tom was inside, safe and happy. She could leave, drive back to the city and pretend none of this had happened. Except she could not, because leaving meant abandoning Tom. And Nathaniel. The thought of not seeing them again made her chest ache in ways she could not explain. The sound of approaching engines cut through her thoughts. 3 motorcycles roared up the driveway, their riders dismounting with predatory grace. Rogues. Harper knew it instinctively, the way prey knows a predator. They moved wrong, their eyes holding a wildness that had nothing to do with humanity. One of them, a man with a scarred face and cold eyes, smiled at her. Well, well, the little human who has been hiding our prize. Get off my property. We are here for the boy. Hand him over and maybe we let you live. Over my dead body. The scarred man laughed. That can be arranged. They shifted as they charged. 3 wolves, larger than any natural animal, teeth bared and eyes gleaming with malice. Harper had no weapons, no way to defend herself against creatures that could tear her apart. But Tom was inside, and she would die before she let them touch him. The first wolf leaped. Harper moved on instinct, her body reacting without thought. She ducked under snapping jaws, felt claws rake across her shoulder. Pain exploded through her, and with it came something else. Heat. It started in her core and spread outward, burning through every nerve. Harper's scream became inhuman as her body began to change. Bones cracked and reformed. Her skin rippled, replaced by fur that erupted across her flesh. The transformation was agony. Every cell of her body was being torn apart and rebuilt. Harper fell to her hands and knees, except they were not hands anymore. They were paws, large and tipped with claws. Her vision shifted, colors muting while scents exploded in clarity. She could smell everything. The rogue's hunger and malice, Tom's fear inside the cottage, and something distant, but approaching fast. Nathaniel. The rogues had stopped, staring at her in shock. Harper looked down at herself and saw golden brown fur, the color of honey in sunlight. A wolf. She was a wolf. One of the rogues recovered first and lunged. Instinct took over. Harper met him midair, her jaws closing on his throat. The taste of blood filled her mouth, but she did not let go. This creature wanted to hurt Tom. Wanted to hurt her family. The word resonated through her wolf's mind. Family. Pack. Protect. She threw the first rogue aside and turned on the second. Her movements were fluid now. The pain of transformation replaced by a rightness she had never felt before. This was what she was meant to be. The fight was brutal and fast. By the time Nathaniel and Tom burst from the trees, 2 rogues lay bleeding on the ground, and the third was fleeing into the forest. Nathaniel froze, his eyes locking onto Harper's wolf form. She saw the recognition in his face, watched as his entire body went still. Then he shifted, his black wolf racing toward her. Harper's first instinct was to attack, to protect Tom from this new threat. But then she caught his scent, that rich, woodsy smell that had haunted her dreams. And underneath it, something more. Mate. Her wolf knew before her human mind could process it. Mate. Ours. Home. Nathaniel's wolf circled her slowly, his amber eyes never leaving hers. He made a sound low in his chest. Not quite a growl. Recognition. Acceptance. Claim. Harper's legs gave out. The adrenaline was fading. and with it came the realization of what had just happened. She had transformed. She had killed. Harper? Nathaniel's voice cut through her spiraling thoughts. He had shifted back to human, crouching before her without apparent concern for his nakedness. Look at me. Focus on my voice. You need to shift back now. She tried to speak, but only a whimper emerged. I know it is frightening. I know you feel lost, but you are not alone. His hand reached out slowly. Take my hand. Focus on your human form. Remember what it feels like to have fingers instead of claws, skin instead of fur. Harper concentrated, pushing past the instinct that wanted her to stay wolf, stay safe. The change back was slower than the first transformation, less violent, but no less uncomfortable. Finally, she was kneeling on the ground in human form, naked and shaking. Nathaniel immediately wrapped her in his jacket, pulling her against his chest. Harper buried her face in his shoulder and let herself break. I have you. Nathaniel murmured against her hair. You are safe. You did so well. You protected Tom. You were magnificent. I killed them. You defended your family. There is no shame in that. Tom appeared at her side, wrapping his small arms around her waist. You were so brave. You saved me. Harper looked between them. These two people who had become everything to her in such a short time, and felt something settle into place. This was right. This was what she was meant for. You are a shifter, Nathaniel said, pulling back to meet her eyes. And more than that, you are my mate. I knew it the moment I saw your wolf. The bond is not just attraction or affection. It is destiny. Our souls were made to fit together. That is why everything feels so intense between us. Yes, the mate bond is rare, precious beyond measure. Some shifters search their entire lives and never find it. His hands cupped her face. And I found mine hiding a wolf pup in a basement. Harper laughed, the sound watery but genuine. But I need you to understand what this means. Nathaniel's expression grew serious. A mate bond is forever. Once we complete it, once we perform the claiming bite, there is no going back. We will be connected on every level. Heart, mind, soul. But the council wants you to mate with Beatrice. The council can go to hell. The words were said with such finality that Harper's breath caught. I will not claim another when my true mate stands before me. Politics be damned. Your people need you, and I need you. Nathaniel's thumb brushed her cheek. Do not ask me to choose between duty and destiny. I have already made my choice. Harper's heart pounded. Everything in her wanted to say yes, to complete this bond and make it permanent. But fear still lingered. My mother's mate rejected her after the claiming. The bond can be broken. Pain flashed across Nathaniel's face. Rejecting a true mate is possible, but it destroys both parties. It requires deliberately severing the soul bond. What your mother's mate did was an act of cruelty I cannot fathom. He pulled her closer. I swear to you, Harper, I will never do that. But I cannot force you to trust me. That is something you have to choose. The space between them crackled with tension. Harper was hyper-aware of every point where their bodies touched, of the heat building between them. She wanted him, wanted this. But the claiming bite was permanent, and she was not ready for that level of commitment. Not yet. Can we take this slowly? She asked. Can we be together without the claiming? Just for now. Nathaniel's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Yes, though my wolf will fight me every moment. It wants to mark you, to make sure everyone knows you are mine. And what about what I want? His eyes blazed. What do you want, Harper? You, she breathed. Just you. Nathaniel kissed her then, and Harper felt the world fall away. There was only this, only him, only the rightness of his hands on her skin, and his breath mingling with hers. They came together with the desperation of people who had been denying themselves too long. Later, wrapped in blankets on the cottage floor with Tom safely asleep upstairs, Harper traced the lines of Nathaniel's chest and tried not to think about the future. For now, this was enough. It had to be, but she could feel Nathaniel's restraint in every touch, see it in the way his eyes lingered on her throat where a claiming bite would go, and she knew that this fragile balance could not last forever. Chapter 6. The Choice. The summons came 3 days after Harper's first transformation. A formal letter, sealed with the crest of the Alpha Council, delivered by a stern-faced courier who would not meet her eyes. Nathaniel read it in silence, his jaw growing tighter with each line. "They are calling an emergency session," he said finally. "Tomorrow night. They want answers about the rogue attacks. And about you." Harper's stomach dropped. "They know. Beatrice made sure of it. The rogues who fled reported back before I could hunt them down. Now the council knows I have been harboring a newly turned shifter and refusing to present myself for political negotiations." He crumpled the letter in his fist. "They are going to force my hand." "What does that mean?" Nathaniel's eyes met hers, and Harper saw something she had never seen before in them. Defeat. "It means I have to choose. Publicly. Between my duty as Alpha King and my mate." The word hung in the air between them. Mate. They had been together, shared intimacy and trust, but Harper had not completed the claiming, had not made it permanent, and now that hesitation might cost them everything. "What will you choose?" Harper asked, though she already knew the answer. She could see it in the tension of his shoulders, the way he could not quite meet her eyes. "I have to think of my people, of the stability they need, of Tom's safety." Nathaniel's voice was rough. "If I claim you now, if I reject Beatrice publicly without proof of her crimes, I will lose the council's support. And without that support, I cannot protect anyone." Harper nodded, feeling something crack inside her chest. "I understand." "Harper." "No, I do. You have responsibilities. People who depend on you. I am just one person." She forced the words out past the tightness in her throat. "Do what you have to do." The council meeting took place in a lodge 2 hours north, a neutral ground where the regional alphas gathered to settle disputes and make territorial decisions. Harper was not invited, but she watched from the cottage as Nathaniel dressed in formal clothing that made him look every inch the king he was. "I will fix this," he said before he left. "I swear to you, I will find a way to make this right." But Harper saw the doubt in his eyes, and she said nothing as he walked out the door. Tom clung to her after Nathaniel left, his small body trembling. "It is my fault," he whispered. "If I had not come here, if Uncle Nate did not have to protect me, he could be with you. That is not true. None of this is your fault, but everyone is fighting because of me. My parents died because of me." Harper pulled him close, her heart breaking. "Your parents died protecting you because they loved you. Just like your uncle loves you. Just like I love you. You are not a burden, Tom. You are a gift." Tom buried his face in her shoulder and cried, and Harper held him until he fell into exhausted sleep. She did not sleep, could not sleep. She lay awake waiting for Nathaniel to return, hoping against hope that he had found another way. But when he finally walked through the door just before dawn, his face told her everything she needed to know. "It is done," he said quietly. "I told the council I would consider Beatrice's proposal, that I needed time to properly evaluate the political benefits. You rejected me." The words came out flat, emotionless. "I delayed the decision. I bought us time to find proof against Beatrice." But Nathaniel could not look at her, and Harper knew the truth. In front of the council, in front of his people, he had chosen duty over love. "I need to be alone," Harper said, and walked past him to the bedroom. She heard Nathaniel start to follow, then stop. The guest room door closed a moment later, and Harper let herself collapse onto the bed. She had known this was a possibility, had known that the mate bond without claiming was fragile, incomplete, but knowing did not make it hurt any less. Tom was gone when Harper woke. She found the note on his pillow, written in a child's careful handwriting. "I am going away so I do not get in the way anymore. Do not look for me. I love you both." Harper's scream brought Nathaniel running. He took one look at the note and shifted immediately, racing out the door in wolf form. Harper followed, her own wolf surging to the surface with an ease that would have terrified her days ago. Together they tracked Tom's scent through the forest, moving as one despite the fracture between them. The trail led north, toward the boundary of neutral territory. Harper's wolf whined with distress. Tom was heading toward Beatrice's lands. They found signs of a struggle a mile from the border. Tom's scent mixed with others, rogues who had clearly been waiting for him. Nathaniel's wolf snarled with rage, and Harper felt her own fury rise to match his. The trail continued into neutral ground, ending at an abandoned cabin hidden deep in the woods. Harper shifted back to human, Nathaniel doing the same beside her. They moved silently, communicating through gestures and looks honed by their connection. Inside the cabin, they found Tom bound and gagged, but alive. 3 rogues stood guard, and Harper recognized one of them from her first fight, the scarred man who had led the original attack. Well, the man said. His name was Travis, Harper remembered. The Alpha King and his little mate. Come to collect your pup? Let him go, Nathaniel said, his voice deadly calm. And I might let you live. Travis laughed. I do not think so. See, we were paid very well to make sure this boy disappeared. And when the client is an alpha with deep pockets, you do not just walk away from the contract. Beatrice. Harper said the name, and Travis's smile confirmed it. Smart girl. Yeah, the blonde alpha wanted the kid out of the picture. Same way she wanted his daddy out of the picture months ago. Nathaniel went very still. What did you say? You think that rogue attack on your brother was random? Travis's eyes gleamed with malice. Nah, that was commissioned work. Paid handsomely to take out Julian and his mate. Make it look like territorial aggression. He gestured around the cabin. Got all the proof right here, actually. Communications, payment records. Beatrice ain't as careful as she thinks. Harper saw Nathaniel's control snap. He shifted mid-lunge, his black wolf tearing into the closest rogue before the man could react. Harper shifted as well, her wolf moving to protect Tom as the cabin erupted into violence. The fight was brutal but short. Harper kept herself between Tom and danger, while Nathaniel dealt with Travis and his companions. When it ended, 2 rogues lay dead and Travis was dying, blood pooling beneath him. Why? Nathaniel demanded, back in human form and gripping Travis by the throat. Why did she want Julian dead? Travis coughed, blood flecking his lips. Power, control. She wanted you desperate enough to accept her offer. Thought killing your brother would break you. Make you need an alliance. He laughed, a wet, ugly sound. Guess she did not count on you finding a mate instead. Where is the evidence? Travis's eyes flickered to a locked box in the corner. In there. Everything you need to bury her. His breathing grew labored. For what it is worth, I am sorry about the kid's parents. That was not personal, just business. Business, Nathaniel repeated, his voice hollow. Then he stood and let Travis bleed out, turning instead to help Harper free Tom. The boy launched himself into their arms, sobbing apologies. Harper held him tight while Nathaniel retrieved the box Travis had indicated. Inside were documents, communications, bank transfers. Everything the council would need to see Beatrice for what she truly was. We have her, Harper said, looking at the evidence spread across the cabin floor. This is enough. Yes. Nathaniel's eyes met hers. This changes everything. But Harper saw the damage that had already been done in the way Tom clung to them, in the shadows under Nathaniel's eyes, in her own heart that still ached from his public rejection. The evidence might clear Beatrice's name from consideration, but it could not erase what had happened between them. We should go, Harper said quietly, before more rogues come. The journey back to the cottage was silent. Tom walked between them, holding both their hands, and Harper wondered if anything would ever feel whole again. Vou fazer ajuste final para manter dentro do limite. Chapter 7. The Claiming. Nathaniel called an emergency council session the morning after they returned with the evidence. The same lodge, the same gathering of territorial alphas, but this time Harper was permitted to attend. She stood at the back of the room, Tom pressed against her side, while Nathaniel presented Travis's evidence to the assembled leaders. The documents were damning. Communications between Beatrice and known rogue mercenaries. Payment records tracing back to her PAC's accounts. Photographs of meetings that should never have taken place. It should have been enough to condemn her immediately, but Beatrice had allies. Powerful ones. These could be forgeries, Alpha Marcus of the Eastern Territory said, created to discredit an honorable alpha. Too many owed Beatrice favors. Reason bowed to alliances. Honorable? Nathaniel's voice was deadly quiet. She murdered my brother. She orchestrated attacks on a child. You have the word of a dying rogue, Marcus continued. A criminal who had every reason to lie, and documents that could have been fabricated. Harper watched Beatrice standing among the other alphas, her blonde hair perfectly styled, her expression wounded innocence. She looked nothing like a murderer. I propose a trial by combat, Beatrice said, her voice soft but clear. Let the old laws decide. If Alpha Nathaniel truly believes I am guilty, let him face me in honorable combat. Murmurs spread through the council. Trial by combat was ancient, rarely invoked, but still legally binding. The winner lived. The loser died. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. I accept. No, Harper said, the word torn from her. Every eye turned to her. She is trying to kill you. If she defeats you, she can claim the Alpha King position by right of conquest. She will not defeat me, Nathaniel said. But Harper saw the calculation in Beatrice's eyes. The combat was set for sunset. Harper paced the small room, her wolf restless. Tom sat quietly, his face pale. She is going to cheat, Harper said. I know. Nathaniel checked his weapons. But I cannot refuse without looking like a coward. So, you walk into an ambush? I am going to end this. One way or another. The combat circle had been drawn in the clearing, marked with ancient symbols. The council gathered around it. Harper and Tom stood at the edge, close enough to see, but unable to interfere once combat began. Nathaniel entered first, moving with warrior confidence. Beatrice followed, and Harper's wolf snarled. For the record, Beatrice said, I deny all charges, and I will prove my innocence through combat. The fight began with both in human form, circling. Then Beatrice shifted, her wolf pale blonde. Nathaniel shifted in response, his black wolf larger and more powerful. They clashed in fury. Harper watched with her heart in her throat as they fought, neither gaining clear advantage. Nathaniel was stronger, but Beatrice was fast. That was when Harper saw the rogues emerge from the trees. At least 20, moving to surround the clearing. The council members shouted in alarm. The trial had been a distraction. Beatrice had never intended to fight fair. Stay here, Harper told Tom, and shifted, racing into chaos. The battle erupted. Council alphas fought rogues while Nathaniel continued combat with Beatrice, unable to break away without violating sacred rules. Harper threw herself into the fight, her wolf moving on instinct and training. She fought beside Owen, Nathaniel's beta, taking down rogues. But there were too many. A rogue broke through, heading straight for Tom. Harper saw it happening in slow motion, her wolf too far away. Then Tom did something impossible. The boy's body began to glow. Energy poured from him, forming a shimmering dome around himself and the nearest council members. The rogue slammed into the barrier and was thrown back. Tom stood at the center, his eyes glowing with power that should not have existed in one so young. The cross bloodline, manifesting years early, triggered by desperate need. The shield held for precious seconds, long enough for Owen to reach Tom. But the effort cost the boy. Tom collapsed. Harper's attention snapped back to Nathaniel just in time to see Beatrice cheat. A flare of rogue magic burst from the tree line. Eyes turned for a heartbeat, and in that chaos, she drew a silver blade, forbidden in honorable combat, and drove it into his shoulder. Nathaniel's wolf yelped and fell, shifting back to human. Silver was poison, and Beatrice had buried the blade deep. You were always too honorable, Beatrice said, shifting back. Too bound by rules. That is why you were never strong enough to lead. She raised the blade for a killing blow. Harper did not think. She simply moved. Her wolf crossed the distance in a heartbeat, slamming into Beatrice. They rolled across the ground, and Harper felt teeth sink into her flank. Pain exploded, but she did not let go. Because Nathaniel was bleeding out, and Tom was unconscious, and everything she cared about was falling apart. Then she heard Nathaniel's voice in her head. Harper, The bond. Completed. Trust me. She understood. The mate bond, completed through claiming, would link them beyond the physical, would allow them to share strength, to heal each other. But it was permanent. Forever. Harper thought of her mother, alone and broken, thought of the fear that had held her back, and realized that fear was a lie. Her mother had been rejected. Harper was choosing. She shifted back to human, still grappling with Beatrice. "Nathaniel, I claim you." Then she lunged, her teeth finding the juncture of his throat and shoulder. She bit down hard enough to break skin, to scar, to bind. Power flooded through her. The mate bond snapped into place with the force of lightning, and suddenly she could feel everything Nathaniel felt. His pain, his fear for her, his overwhelming love. Nathaniel shifted despite his wound, his wolf moving to her side. He returned the claiming bite, his teeth marking her, and the bond completed itself. The effect was immediate. Harper felt Nathaniel's strength pouring into her, and she could sense her healing ability flowing back to him. The silver wound began to close, and when they turned together to face Beatrice, they moved as one. Beatrice's eyes widened. "No, that is not possible." "We just did," Harper said. They attacked together, perfectly synchronized. Harper could anticipate Nathaniel's every move. Beatrice never stood a chance. The blonde alpha tried to flee, but Owen and the other council members had dealt with the rogues. She was surrounded, cornered. "I killed Julian," she screamed, her composure breaking. "And I would do it again. Nathaniel should have been mine. Was always meant to be mine. I gave him every chance, and he chose a human over me." The council went silent. Beatrice had confessed in front of witnesses. "You killed innocent people because of wounded pride," Nathaniel said quietly. He was back in human form, standing with Harper's hand in his. The claiming marks on both their throats were visible. "You terrorized a child. You broke every law we hold sacred." "I did what I had to do for power." Beatrice's eyes were wild. "In this world, power is everything." "No," Harper said. "Love is everything. And that is why you lost." Beatrice shifted and lunged one final time. But Nathaniel was ready. His wolf met her midair, and the fight was over in seconds. Beatrice lay dead, her throat torn out, killed in legitimate self-defense with the entire council as witnesses. The clearing fell silent. Harper shifted back and ran to Tom, who was stirring weakly. The boy opened his eyes and smiled. "You did it," he whispered. "You saved Uncle Nate. We all did." Harper said, pulling him close. "We are a family. We save each other." Nathaniel joined them, and for a long moment the three simply held each other while the council dealt with the aftermath. The battle was over. The threat was ended, and Harper could feel through the mate bond that Nathaniel's heart beat in rhythm with hers. Now and forever. Chapter 8. New Beginnings. The council's formal recognition came the morning after Beatrice's death. Alpha Marcus, who had questioned the evidence so readily the day before, stood before Harper and Nathaniel with his head bowed in respect. The council recognizes Harper Vale as legitimate Luna to Alpha King Nathaniel Hunt, he announced, his voice carrying across the assembled gathering. "The mate bond has been witnessed and proven through combat. The union is blessed by the old laws." Harper stood beside Nathaniel, her hand in his, the claiming mark on her throat still tender, but already beginning to scar. She could feel the mate bond humming between them, a constant awareness of his presence in the back of her mind. "Furthermore," Marcus continued, "the council acknowledges the Luna's unique abilities as a healer and her courage in battle. She has proven herself worthy of the position not through bloodline alone, but through action and sacrifice. What Harper had feared would be seen as weakness had instead become a symbol of strength. She had fought beside seasoned warriors. She had completed a mate bond under impossible circumstances and used it to save the Alpha King's life. Tom recovered quickly from manifesting his protective ability. Dr. Reed declared him healthy, but exhausted. The power that had saved them also burned through him. For weeks, Tom slept 12 hours a day while his body relearned peace. The power he had displayed confirmed what Nathaniel had suspected. Tom carried the rare cross bloodline, and with proper training, He would become extraordinarily powerful. The council granted them official guardianship of Tom without question. No one wanted to separate the boy from the only family he had left. They returned to the cottage 3 days after the battle. It felt like coming home. We should expand it, Nathaniel said, assessing the space. Add another bedroom. Tom needs his own space, and we will need a nursery eventually. Harper's hand drifted to her stomach. The mate bond made such things inevitable. She found the idea did not frighten her. Over the following months, the cottage transformed. Builders first reinforced the mountainside, carving terraces before raising a second floor to create proper bedrooms. Harper worked on the gardens, using her skills to create spaces both beautiful and functional. Tom helped where he could, his enthusiasm boundless. They installed security measures throughout the property, wards that would alert them to intruders, cameras hidden in trees, a panic room in the basement, reinforced and stocked with supplies. Tom's room became a sanctuary. Harper and Nathaniel filled it with books and toys. Tom painted one wall himself, creating a mural of a forest with wolves running beneath the trees. His family, he explained. All of them together. The shifter community embraced Harper with surprising warmth. Word of her healing abilities spread, and injured shifters began appearing seeking help. Not everyone welcomed her gift. Some whispered that no human should hold a wolf's healing in her hands. Harper discovered she could accelerate healing, mend broken bones faster, even draw poison from wounds. "You are building a reputation," Nathaniel told her one evening. "Shifters are starting to call you the healing Luna. Is that a problem?" "No. It is a gift. You are giving our people hope that injuries do not have to be permanent, that trauma can be healed." Nathaniel proved to be a progressive ruler. With Harper at his side, he implemented changes to old laws. Orphaned shifter children were given more protection. Political matings were no longer enforced. Alphas who abused power faced stricter consequences. The pregnancy came as both surprise and inevitability. Dr. Reed confirmed it 2 days after Harper suspected. "Twins," the doctor said, smiling. "Strong heartbeats, both healthy." Nathaniel held her tightly, whispering promises about the family they were building. Tom was thrilled. He started talking to Harper's stomach, telling the babies stories about the cottage and the forest. "I am going to teach them everything," Tom declared. "How to shift, how to track, how to be brave. You will be an excellent big brother," Harper assured him. 1 year after the battle, Harper stood in the garden watching Tom practice with Nathaniel. The boy had grown emotionally and physically. The trauma that had once defined him had healed. He could shift at will now, his transformation smooth. She was 6 months pregnant, her stomach round. The twins were active today, kicking and rolling. That was when Owen appeared, carrying something small wrapped in a blanket. Harper's healing sense detected injury and fear. "Found her in the forest," Owen said. "Orphan. Maybe 4 years old. She has been alone for days." Harper took the bundle carefully. A little girl looked up at her with huge brown eyes, her dark hair matted. She was in wolf form, too frightened to shift back, trembling. "Hello, sweetheart," Harper said softly. "You are safe now. No one is going to hurt you." The girl whimpered, and Harper felt her healing ability activate. Warmth flowed from her hands, soothing the child's terror. Slowly the girl shifted back to human form. "Can she stay?" Tom asked, appearing at Harper's side. "Can we keep her?" Harper looked at Nathaniel, and through their bond, she felt his answer. "Yes. Always yes." "What is your name?" Harper asked gently. "Lily," the girl whispered. "Well, Lily, how would you like to stay with us? We have a warm house and good food and a boy named Tom who would very much like to have a little sister." Lily's eyes widened. "Sister, if you want," Tom said, reaching out to take her small hand. "I promise I will protect you. That is what big brothers do." Lily looked between them all and nodded. That evening, after Lily had been bathed and fed and tucked into the guest room with Tom reading her a story, Harper stood at the window. Nathaniel came up behind her, his arms encircling her and their unborn children. "You are thinking," he said. "I am thinking about how my mother lived here alone for so many years, hiding from the world. How I came here expecting to find only memories and grief. Harper leaned back against him. And instead I found you. I found Tom. I found myself. She left you more than a cottage, Nathaniel said quietly. She left you a sanctuary, a place where broken things could heal and lost souls could find home. We are building something here, something bigger than just us. A pack, a family, a refuge for those who need it most. Harper turned in his arms. I love you. I love you, he replied, and kissed her as the last light faded. The next morning, Harper woke to laughter. She looked out the window to see Nathaniel in the garden with Tom and Lily, all three in wolf form, playing. Tom's silver-white wolf darted around Nathaniel's massive black form, while Lily's smaller brown wolf watched from the safety of a flower bed, her tail wagging cautiously. Harper rested her hand on her pregnant belly, feeling the twins move. She thought of her mother, alone in this cottage, broken by rejection and loss. And she thought of herself, standing here surrounded by love and life and hope. Her mother had survived, had built these walls and carved out an existence from pain. But Harper was doing more than surviving. She was thriving, building a family that would span generations, creating a home where wounded souls could heal. The cottage had been a refuge for her mother. For Harper, it was a beginning. She had not inherited just a cottage. She had inherited a future, and as she watched her mate play with their children in the morning sun, Harper felt something she had not felt since before her mother's death. Complete and perfect peace. This was home. This was family. This was love. This was everything.